A lot to get to today. First, the Israel Defense Force said that warplanes, combat helicopters, and tanks took part in targeting a number of Hamas positions after some 80 fires were ignited in southern Israel over the last 2 days, all from incendiary and explosive devices flown in on balloons from the Gaza Strip. Now, aside from the strikes, in response to the provocation from Gaza, Israel closed the Kerem Shalom border crossing while making exceptions for fuel, food, and humanitarian goods. Israel's also temporarily reduced the fishing zone around the Strip. For now, fire crews, security forces, and bomb squads are again on high alert in the south today. Now, for more on the situation, we're joined in the studio by our Middle East correspondent, Adi Kopowitz. Adi, just what is going on with Hamas right now?
Yes, David, we're seeing this sort of an escalation during the last week. More and more incendiary balloons are being launched from the Gaza Strip to Israel, and we're seeing that Israel is retaliating. And last night, Israel stepped up a little bit the retaliations. Both the amount of attacks from Israeli aircrafts in the Gaza Strip, we're seeing more attacks than usual. Still, there are no casualties. These are usually empty Hamas posts, and the attacks are usually meant to send a message. But Israel is also taking steps that are hurting the civil population in the Gaza Strip in order to leverage Hamas, meaning when Israel is minimizing the fishing zone, it hurts the source of income for many fishermen in Gaza very significantly. Now there's a whole public in Gaza that might pressure Hamas to stop these provocations and these incendiary balloons that are being launched to Israel. Now, what's interesting is that this development really is some sort of an escalation, but it comes from a place that both sides are trying to pressure the other one to improve the situation. So, if you will, an escalation in order to achieve some sort of a deal or an improvement in life conditions.
It's the messaging at this point. Is this the way Israel and Hamas communicate at this point, at least openly?
It's definitely a sort of communication, but this communication is becoming more and more aggressive, and potentially it definitely could theoretically escalate more and more. We've seen this happening in the past, and the big question right now that could determine whether this escalates or not is, will the Qatari aid money continue after August? Right now, Qatar is still supplying the money. That's $15 million a month entering the Gaza Strip, and this is a very important source of income for many people within the Gaza Strip, where poverty is quite common, and this is really essential aid money to the Strip. If Qatar refuses to keep on sending this aid money, then we definitely might be seeing Hamas escalating the situation, turning to this last resort, maybe trying to pressure Israel into making life in the Gaza Strip easier for people who live there.
And from the side of Qatar or the other parties involved in this, was there a hang-up? What's the issue? Or what needs to be overcome, essentially, to, again, resume the quiet in the south?
Well, it's not completely clear what are the Qatari demands in order to continue this aid money entering the Gaza Strip, but whatever they will be, there's a high probability that both Israel, Hamas, and the international community will do some sort of an effort to respond Qatar and give them what they want, simply because there's an understanding that this aid money is keeping the situation relatively stable and quiet for the last 2 years, which is quite convenient for Israel and also for Hamas, that in a way got sort of addicted to this aid money. Hamas doesn't have any significant achievements to show its population. It didn't make the siege on Gaza easier, and there are no workers entering from the Gaza Strip to Israel, for example, something that could definitely improve the economy in the Gaza Strip. The main achievement of Hamas is this aid money that comes every month into the Gaza Strip and gives some sort of a base, some sort of an income to these families who are so much in need, and Hamas will definitely fight very hard to keep this aid money coming in, even at the price of some sort of an escalation with Israel.
Now, from what you're hearing or reading or your analysis, is this likely to continue at least into the weekend here today? I know Friday is typically a day of heightened activity along the border. What do we anticipate?
Well, it depends very much on the work of mediators between Israel and Hamas. It's safe to assume that already the regular mediators, that includes Qatar and probably Egypt too, are working on both sides trying to achieve some sort of an understanding. But this usually takes several days, sometimes even several weeks. Right now, it doesn't seem like there's going to be a calm down until the weekend. And actually, David, there's a good chance that we'll see even more so of an escalation a little bit, maybe even some sporadic rocket launches from the Gaza Strip. It's hard to foresee what's going to happen. The situation usually spontaneously flares up, and also it relaxes quite spontaneously.
Now, as we mentioned, the security crews and fire crews along the south obviously had heightened alert here. Adi Kopowitz, thanks for breaking it down for us. Now, separately, in a joint development project, Israel and the United States completed a successful test of the advanced Arrow 2 missile defense system in Israel on Wednesday. That's according to a statement from the Defense Ministry. Defense Minister Benny Gantz said of the test, quote, "Our elite technological unit ensures that we will always be one step ahead of our enemies," close quote. Now, not many details were released regarding the system, but the Arrow 2 first rolled out in 2000, saw its first operational use in March 2017 against a Syrian surface-to-air missile fired at Israeli aircraft. The huge missile is estimated to cost up to $1 million, and our defense correspondent Jonathan Regev has the latest.
On the day-to-day basis, Israel is concerned with short-term threats such as the balloons crossing from the Gaza Strip there into Israel. But on the long term, Israel is much more concerned with threats such as missiles which could be sent from Iran to Israel and could potentially in the future also carry nuclear weapons. And in this sense, the test conducted last night of the Arrow 2 missile defense system is very, very important. It was led by the Israeli aerospace industries along with the cooperation of various departments in the Israeli Ministry of Defense, the Israeli Air Force, and also the participation of the American Missile Defense Agency. The test of the Arrow 2 was successful. The missile intercepted a missile which depicted a surface-to-surface missile, a long-range missile, which in the future could be sent from Iran to Israel. The test was successful, conducted in central Israel, and this adds another layer of defense to Israel.